You hear me? Now we can hear me. Hey, welcome back, everybody. You are officially watching the SMITE 2 Founder Series Las Vegas real bracket. We are into it now. It's a double elim bracket, so we got to get things started here this weekend. Qualifiers are over, and we are into the real action now. We are still on CA7, so worth mentioning. Nuwa still not available, Thor, Baron, and CA7 still the patch we'll be playing on.
Yeah, they just haven't touched into the CC buffering, stuff like that. Those are the bigger things. The same meta that we saw from this previous tournament should be about the same style of characters. CERN, Sobek's really good. But yeah, with these banned characters, Baron was one that was a new ban into this tournament. No longer available, which is, I mean, he was kind of dominant, so it was interesting to see P's and B's kind of change up a little bit.
Well, we talk about a land meta. It's going to be the same, we assume, of what we've seen unfold over the last few days. And so some maybe more of the usual suspects as we get into game one. Though what we saw this morning inbound were all best of ones, tie-breaking type games, and so it was a lot of teams sort of throwing out their one best swing for what they thought their opponent was. Now into the official main bracket here in the SMITE 2 Founder Series Las Vegas. We're into best of threes. And so now it's teams that we've seen play against one another. Maybe not, because we're in separate groups now. We're officially joining the groups for the first rounds of these brackets. And that means we've got a really, really good one to start off with. A team that we just saw drop their last tiebreaker in Team Risk going up against Borscht. And then Food Drive for Globe against Mockingbird will be played a little bit later on. With that final tiebreaker, worth noting, you look in that second column there, Smoke Break and 5Ms, they finished atop of their groups. So we will see them again, but like 4 weeks from now when we are in, wheels down in Las Vegas. Of course, as I've mentioned, this is a double elim bracket. So the teams that lose their best of threes today will not be out. They will just be awaiting the losers of the rounds that we watch in Las Vegas, and we will proceed onward from there. And so inbound, double elim style, it's not a style of tournament we've seen in recent SMITE live fan events of past. Does it change the dynamic much in your mind?
I mean, it has to. It allows you just the opportunity to attempt something through an entire set and not be, completely sold on like that having to be the thing, and then you lose that one set where you think you have this grasp on the meta. It allows you to try this something. You're also playing against the opposite side group, which you've not played against them. You've seen them play. And I mean, you're comparing Group A, Group B. Group B was very close. Group A, clear 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
I think that makes this set specifically probably the most interesting one of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to be watching that bottom matchup in the first round. That's Borscht, who we haven't seen play since, I think that was yesterday when they qualified into their first seed. We saw Team Risk play just a moment ago, so as a reminder on that roster, it's Variety, Lasbra, Theeks, Genetics, and Streak. Borscht, though, if you need a refresher, that's Fine OK, Rat Milk, Baskin, Awesome Jake, and Pagon. And inbound, Borscht has been playing some really good SMITE.
Yeah, I mean, Borscht they've been a surprise team, I guess, since they've made, 4 roster changes or something like that since the start of this phase, if you want to call it that. And they finally found this roster that's been working out. The aggression from duo lane with Jake and Pagon looks really good. Alec back in solo lane, Fine OK back in solo lane, looks very strong over there. And it feels like they've all kind of put it together. It wasn't put together enough to contest with 5Ms, who number one team in that Group A. But they've still shown a lot of things, and they showed that they're a team that's also just growing through this weekend. The more you see them, the better they get, the stronger they get. And, I mean, you compare it to the other side of Team Risk, who's coming in after the loss earlier.
Yep.
I mean, we're sitting at 2 different highs, one high, one low for these teams.
And Team Risk has won some really good sets of SMITE this weekend as well. Despite the loss in the last game, the one individual game we saw them play, Team Risk, not only a very talented team, but a team that has brought it here this weekend. So it's a second seed from Group A against a third seed from Group B, but it's 2 teams that couldn't really feel closer matched if we tried. Yeah. It'll be a fun one. And I want to hear from both teams at the same time, players standing by with Malum.
Hey, and thank you. Yeah, both Fine OK and Genetics standing by with me. Borscht has gotten to have a nice and easy-peasy rest day. Anything but rest for you guys so far today on the side of Team Risk. I'm going to start with you, Alex. So you guys have got to have a pretty chill day so far. Hang out at the hotel, maybe in here, watch the games. What's the big stuff you've picked up on so far?
It was hard to tell because they're best of ones, and I think they're a lot different than best of threes. So I think maybe people were pulling out some unique strats, and maybe also towards like the end there, they were like kind of playing against the clock. They had to once, like for example, Team Risk, once they kind of thought like the game was over, it's like there was really no point, because if they were going to win that game, it would probably be like a 30 or 40-minute game. So they're kind of playing against the clock. So it was a little bit different than an actual best of three, but still some like certain picks and stuff that we can target out and think about. So.
All right, you still have a lot to pick up from it, despite the kind of long rest. And Genex, over to you. You guys just had a awkward and rough set of kind of the clock aspect of it, and just in general, it was a wild game with a weird start into a very dynamic finish. Is it easy to kind of just brush that off and move on to the next game?
Definitely not. No, obviously losing two best of ones back to back is not easy for the mental. Thing is, we should be all right. I mean, it's a best of three now. The best thing about best of three is that if you lose the first game, you've got a second game, and potentially a third game if you win the second one. So. Worst case scenario, we have to play 2 more games.
Yeah, I guess that does kind of check out. Now, one more over here for you, Fine. Okay, you guys, as you mentioned, it's a best of 3, but now we're in Vegas. Is it very easy, or is it a bit more difficult to kind of put yourself in that mindset of a new bracket, a new flow of things and games that mean a little bit more and are a bit different?
I think it's really difficult, especially because like we're playing our first set for Vegas, but we're here in Georgia, and I think also the game is going to be a lot different when we play in Vegas. So. Like, it's our own fault, because if we just got first seed, we wouldn't have to worry about this. But at the same time, like, when we actually get to Vegas in a month, like, the game could be completely different. So I think it's pretty tough, but we just got to finish the job, try and get the dub, see what happens.
A lot of adjustments you have to make and kind of just put yourself in that mindset. And kind of a similar thing for you then, Genetics. Mentioning the idea of you're looking at Vegas now, but you have a lot of time until it. Is it very much a mindset of, okay, we don't have to hold anything back. We can throw everything we've got for this meta out, throw the whole kitchen sink?
Yeah, I'm going to be building a lot of Glad Shield and Talisman today on repeat, both games. And if I don't build them, then you can find me $1,000 each time I don't build them.
Noted. Write it down, everybody. But that's all I've got. Thanks, Genetics. Thanks. Fine. Okay. Back over to you guys at the desk.
I like to imagine that it's Malum himself who gets to hand down that fine. Can you imagine Malum and how nice he is actually going up and fining someone?
You said, can I imagine? I can't.
No, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to imagine that. Somebody else will handle that. So this is sort of the last opportunity for a handful of builds and meta picks that are really strong right now. And I think a pointed question towards Fine OK that's worth mentioning. I mean, this is a team that, on both sides, need to get their mind in the right headspace. You are in the Vegas bracket now in a double elim style tournament. Lots of games to be played in Vegas. So we're getting things started here this weekend. None of the teams that lose today officially going home. Everyone that is qualified is going to be out in Vegas. Just depends if you start that weekend up on the higher bracket or down in the lower bracket. So let's talk a little bit more in depth inbound about these two teams. We got Borscht, Fine OK, Rat Milk, Baskin, Awesome Jake, and Pagon. What has stood out to you about this team this weekend?
I mean, when you talk about this team, you got to start with the duo lane, because that's just how their games kind of are dictated. It's either Jake, Pagon running it down super far ahead, or Jake, Pagon even, and it just doesn't look nearly as clean. They look like they're really reliant on getting ahead compared to like the game we just saw with Food Drive for Globe. If they don't get ahead, yeah, maybe they look a little bit different, but I think this team just seems more reliant on playing through Jake and playing through Pagon. Rat Milk has really impressed me. He's one of the few players that's also pulling out that Thanatos. This is, just a different style than we've really seen from most other teams. They have a lot of players that play for 1v1s, which is not something that we see for most other teams. But something that Fine OK said in the interview was, this is kind of a different meta that we're going to see in Vegas. This is CA7.
Absolutely.
This is not going to be that patch. So this is kind of it. This is what we're starting with going into this first round of Vegas. You're going to be playing the same type of style, and I think it benefits Borscht a little bit to see kind of what Team Risk played today, because like this was backs against the wall. They wanted to win.
Though an undertone of his Fine OK's answer was that you can't really take too much from that final tiebreaker, because they were fighting the clock as much as they were fighting up against Smoke Break. Team Risk, of course, is the they that I'm referencing on the other side of that equation, and that is the team on the other side of this matchup. Back into a best of 3, Team Risk can take a breather. Of course, Genetics references, look, it's kind of hard to recenter yourselves after losing 2 best of 1s. However, Now you're in the more dynamic pick ban strategy, draft strategy, game strategy. You're not fighting against a clock. You're back to your standard game of Smite, and Team Risk plays a very good game of Smite.
You would think that, but I think until this
But
weekend...
they play bad Smite. I would think that.
Okay, all right, Dave. I didn't finish the point, Dave. You would think that, coming into this weekend,
Okay,
I think Team Risk has played probably one of the more underwhelming styles we've really seen.
You didn't make it any better.
Did
Go
I
ahead,
not?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They've just, coming into this land, they're the number one team. They didn't drop a game. They have not looked nearly as dominant as they looked during that phase.
There we go.
And I don't know if it's like the coming to LAN, if it's the seeing the oppositions against them, or other teams are just leveling up coming to LAN, because that is a thing. There are just teams that are LANimals. Team Risk, they haven't taken that step forward you would expect from a team. But honestly, Dave, that doesn't worry me that much. I'm still not wanting to play against this team. I mean, if you told me they come out, they 2-0, 20-minute games, I'd be like, yeah, that's Team Risk. But that's the issue with this team is you could see two different styles. You could see one where they're losing both of these or one where they're winning both of these, and they're just kind of blowouts. And we need some sort of consistency for Team Risk, 100%, especially going into Vegas.
I'm totally back on your team there by the
Nice.
end. You really brought that point around. Totally agree. I'm excited about a swath of matchups in this one. Interestingly enough, when I look at Borscht, and most folks as well, if you're only into competitive Smite in the last handful of years, you're going to know Final K, one of the mainstays, Baskin, one of the most talented players we've gotten, Jake Pagon, real dynamic duo lane. Admittedly, going into Smite 2, Ratmilk, probably one of the lesser-known players on this team, has been in competitive Smite for a while, but to me has been one of the standout players on this team, and you mentioned that a bit in your breakdown. So the Ratmilk versus Lasbra jungle dynamic, I think, as always, because jungle just does by default, but carries a little extra weight.
Yeah, and the styles that these two play, opposites. Yeah, like as I was saying, Ratmilk, he looks for a lot of 1v1s, and it's jungler 1v1s, solo 1v1s, mid lane 1v1s. If you are not with a teammate, Ratmilk smells that, and he will find you, and he'll take that 1v1. And Lasbra's the opposite. Lasbra plays for relics. He plays for team fights. He plays to get his team ahead. He doesn't really care if he's falling behind. And honestly, it's good to have that. It's just not worked out too well for Team Risk. But the 1v1s that you see Ratmilk take, sometimes that comes back to bite them, and that's actually part of the reason that they, I think, underwhelmed versus 5Ms, is 5Ms exploited those 1v1s, and they would like bait scream, then somebody would follow up, and it would no longer be a 1v1. I want to see Ratmilk play for those 1v1s just a tiny bit smarter.
Certain gods, a little bit easier to play in the 1v1s on than others. Picks and bans will tell us the story of these players and exactly what they're going to be able to play and the dynamic they're going to be able to bring forward. Is Ratmilk going to get that aggressive solo-style jungle? Is Lasbra going to try to counter it out? Also an interesting dynamic. I just want to underline it. Not only difference in play styles, individual players, but because of the way all these qualifiers broke out, we're getting back to NA versus EU type rivalry matches. This is Borscht out of NA. This is Team Risk out of EMEA, EU. So we bring back some of that rivalry, some of those different playstyle dynamics in this matchup here as well. And I think that's worth looking at. Also worth looking at, Ymir, first pick, alongside a Yamoja and a Sobek band supports, heavily looked at in the first three.
And I love this for Team Risk. Banning away this Sobek to start. Yamoja has to be the response, especially when you're playing into a player like Genetics. And locking in this Ymir, this puts Jake on the back foot immediately. There's maybe a Fenrir, there's maybe something like the Athena. There is just a massive, massive fall off after those top three supports. And I want to see, for Borscht, ignore the support role until you have to lock something in. Pick the strong characters. I think Cern has kind of came up as the best hunter in the game, and I think it's a little surprising that Jingwei has fallen by the wayside. Not that I don't think Cern's better, but coming into this, I think a lot of people thought Jingwei was dominant. And then Poseidon, flex potential. That's the name of the game with this pick. Final K can play it. You'll see it in mid. I wouldn't be surprised if Pagon actually has a Poseidon also, so just a lot of flex potential there.
We know Pagon does because I'm used to watching Pagon in mid, right? I'm sure Pagon played Poseidon in mid for a while. Still, my brain, kind of retooling, getting used to Pagon playing carry alongside awesome Jake. That's a very mechanically intensive duo lane to go up against. but a lot of fun for us to watch here at home. The next 2 picks rolling through for Team Risk, Cupid and Amaterasu. Right up there on those tier lists inbound as far as ADC and solo lane picks, especially in this current meta.
And this is the style I want to see from Team Risk. I love these top 3. I love the gods that they've also given up because they play just very well into the CERN and into the Poseidon. This is a if you are a Team Risk fan, this is what you want to see out of your top 3. And yeah, you're giving up some value. Poseidon's been really good, CERN, Loki really good. Even Hades has been pretty solid. But I like the comp that Team Risk has drafted. Yes, Borscht maybe has these really awesome picks, but like even rounding it out with the Cuckoo and the Athena, I think this is a beautifully crafted comp by Team Risk.
I think Cuckoo's a great example when we talk about land meta and how things change on a day-to-day basis. Suddenly, Kukulkan Khan is like the pick here today. The tiebreakers, we've seen him this weekend, don't get me wrong, but now is really being talked about in the mid lane. Anubis, we've seen once or twice. Good luck shaking this one out. Support, mid, ADC, CERN. A lot to shift around here with this Borscht comp.
I mean, I got this one. Let me lay it out for you, Dave.
All right.
Anubis mid. Baskin's the one that's pulling that out. He's the one that's going to be playing it.
Okay.
FinoK has preferred playing mage solos, and he likes the ones that can farm a lot better, and I think Poseidon fills this to a T. CERN's going to be going over to support, and I think it's going to be Hades in support.
CERN is not going to support.
What did I say? CERN's going to ADC.
You told me to hop on the inbound express there, and you've derailed us.
I messed it up, guys.
2/3 of the way through our journey. So what was the final call? CERN ADC, of course, and then who was your support call? Hades support?
Hades support, yeah.
Okay, so let's ride with that a minute. I mean, it's not worth overanalyzing something that could change, but if that is maybe the more prevalent option, Hades CERN versus what I assume to be a Ymir and Cupid, does that laning phase speak to you in any sort of way?
I mean, I think as long as you just don't die, like CERN, it might be the best level 1, level 2 character in the game in ADC, but if you just don't die at that point, you have a really good matchup into him at 5 with this Ymir, with this Cupid, so I'm perfectly fine with it.
I have good news for you. You're right. It is
You can say it again.
support. You're right, Inbound. You don't hear it often, so I'll let you hear it twice. Into Game 1 of the Las Vegas SMITE 2 Founder Series, we go with Malum and Aggro.
Let's get it started. It is Vegas time. It's Vegas bracket, and it's Malum and Aggro. Somebody's got to tell 2017 Malum and his ramen packets. Just as an aside note.
That's going to be way harder than anything else we have to do. Let's move that to the bottom of the list, shall we?
But team comp-wise, already it's easy to get excited. The Cuckoo that's jumped up to the top of, as they were saying on the desk, the land meta, it's there. And of course, the 3 mage essentially flex potential from Borscht coming out. Genex run.
Yeah, no shot he gets caught here. He'll be okay. Yeah, I mean, look, Awesome Jake is going to play the way Awesome Jake plays. He always has, and he should always play the way he wants to play, because he is a special player when he's freed from the shackles of meta thoughts and what everyone else is doing. This is what makes him successful, and we saw it in his final years in the SPL, that when given those opportunities to be a game-warping type of player, he really can be. So I'm always going to give Jake the benefit of the doubt on a strange pick like this, or a strange strategy like this. As he's looped around, he's probably going to try and just hit the wave a little bit for a semi-proxy and then stop them from doing purple, but a great ward here from Risk on that portal showed him rotating over. So let's see what Risk does in response.
They'll be privy. The minions have already passed, and so is that 20-second mark. Now Jake shows Genex is aware, and a simple scary stare backs up Jake for the time being, but now he's interested in stepping back.
Yeah, but it's enough time for that purple to go down, so that's what really matters. Jake will take a bit of damage, but will be A-okay from this position. So both ADCs get to solo it. Hades takes a little bit of extra damage, but he's got in kit sustain once he can get to the waves, so shouldn't be too big of a problem here for Jake.
An interesting start. That heart bomb does mean a little bit more when we get to lane as well. He'll take more damage. Variety taking damage of his own, got aggressive, and got the steal of the blue, and one more hit, it's there. First blood for Borscht.
Man, this has not been a great hour and a half for Variety in solo lane. He had a really rough last game, and now starting off getting first blooded. Alec just gets to start on his red side, and that extra damage from red buff made the difference.
Not stopping yet. Damage onto Borscht now. Jake dead. Jags with the last hit. Streak dash for it, but not able to lock it down.
Aegon now in some trouble, trying to trade it back, but an Aegis might be enough.
Oh,
No!
body blocks weren't good enough. Pagon got through, but Genetics ends up with a double kill. Scoreboard's tied 2-2, and we're not even at 2 minutes.
And look, there are a lot worse support players to get the first 2 kills for your team on, and a lot worse support gods to get your first kills on. Ymir, excellent base damage, excellent ability. All of his abilities need points in them. They all feel like they get so much stronger when being leveled. So getting your Ymir accelerated is big, especially into something like this Hades where the utility is there, but a lot of it's got to come from damage.
Feeds out, Pagon in trouble, the wall's in the way as well, and the autos are enough. 1 for Streak, and look at the gank coming out from Lasbra. The taunt, waits for the dash, grabs it, damage all good, Jake goes down. 3rd kill for Genetics.
Listen, it's way better than the Fed Kepris or anything like that. I mean, a Fed Ymir is huge, and I think it's also about Genetics getting involved early. You heard him during your interview with him that, yeah, you know, excited to go to best of 3s instead of best of 1s because it makes such a big difference. If this game started off poorly after the day that Team Risk has had, I don't know what it would have looked like exactly. So getting Genetics, who's obviously the heart and soul of this team, involved this much early is great. Now, there's still a risk, you know, it's still that it's a support that has all your kills. It's a support that has so much gold and experience, but as far as supports getting kills go, this is about as good as it gets.
Lasbra denied a chance of a kill as a dash was caught by the wrap. Every time we go over to Genetics now and he gets a freeze, I don't care if they're full health, it gets a little bit scary just knowing what he can do. Scary for Lasbra? Oh, so scary! The laser finds its target.
Nice job by Baskin, and a lot of people would be scared to pick something like Anubis into Kukulkan, you know, oh, I stand still for all my damage and my ult, and Kukulkan gets to hit his ultimate, and oh no, but Anubis wins all of the DPS races, basically, in the entire game. Baskin is someone who is not going to be scared for that play.
Kraken out, Variety up, and now in the dirt. Going to Rat Milk, 2 deaths for Variety already, and as you mentioned, a tough morning is now turning into a rough afternoon.
Yeah, still level 4 now for Variety, and if I'm Genetics, I'm going, look guys, we just lost 2 kills in places that I'm not. Don't fight anywhere where I'm not going to be. And it's not like Risk was really overextended in those moments. It was Variety on his own purple, or on his own blue, and Lasbra underneath his own tower, but you have to be wary now if you're Risk that your side lane and the right side is now behind. Your jungler just hit over to level 5, is a little bit behind, and it's okay because it's Athena jungle and so much comes from utility, but Genetics is where the lead is for Risk, so any optimal fight is going to involve him.
So contest at the mid-Harpies goes the way of Team Risk. Now, with that happening, when you get into this really unique situation, as Fields of Love is dropped, Pagon hadn't hit ult yet, so maybe he shouldn't have been as far pushed up as he was to begin that, but is able to get away. When you have this flip-flop where your right side's already sort of doomed, your left side's got the advantage, how do you play around Gold Fury as it spawns up?
You can rotate Variety over, actually, in this type of situation, because, yes, he's going to lose some farm, but that farm was going to be hard for him to get anyways. So he can take a teleporter over and set you up for a Gold Fury, and Borscht might say, okay, well, we can get fine, okay, some invades, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Borscht knows that they don't really want to fight around this Ymir that much either, but at this exact moment, as Gold Fury spawns at 5 minutes, Genetics hasn't leveraged this lead in itemization yet because he had to go back, he had to stay out and farm for his full tier 1 item. Jake is not that far behind until right now, where Genetics backs and finishes off a Hexstone rush, which is an interesting call from him, just probably trying to make sure that all the CC from Borscht that can normally be so deadly for a Ymir ends up being less threatening. In particular, Hades ult, having an option to get out of that as Ymir is not easy.
Variety avoids the Kraken, turns Dazzling offensive. Won't have enough damage to kill, but at least this time, Variety can walk away from seeing the Kraken. That's a pretty big positive.
Yeah, we're taking small wins if we're Variety right now.
Hexstone should be good to get away. It was called, but Baskin catches it. No more Hexstone, gonna force the ultimate. The laser real good. Genetics will die. The shutdown's big for Baskin. Does he live too? No way. No way indeed. Lasper cleans it up, but towards the left, Streak with the dash. Could not find Rat Milk. Jake got caught too, but Jake also didn't die. Meanwhile, a flank coming out from FineOK. Finds Streak, but can't get the kill.
Aegis just enough to save Streak's life, and I loved the commit initially, but Baskin just gets caught in this odd position where he knows a rotation is going to come from Theeks from mid lane, and he just can't really position in a way where he's not in danger from one end of the fight. Plus, one of those Smite 2 specific changes to Athena ends up coming up big there, where even though Genetics dies with that Athena ultimate on him, Lazarus still arrives when he normally would with Defender of Olympus, and that damage and his presence were huge in turning that around for Risk.
It's still early, but coming up on 7 minutes, for it to be this close in terms of charts, kills, and even feel, but yet be so up-tempo compared to a lot of other games we've had this week, it's weird. It really does already feel like a different portion of the bracket.
Risk has, I've cast a couple Risk games now, and their games have felt higher paced. You know, they are being more active on the map, and it's because of their experience and knowledge and comfort level at a high level, and I'm not surprised to see Borscht matching it. You know, these guys are also all absolute studs with great resumes throughout their time playing in Smite 1 competitive, so no surprise to me that both these teams are active early.
I think it's awesome you bring up that point, because the one kind of outlier as Variety is falling really low in solo. FineOK looking to grab it, can't quite line up the Whirlpool. The offensive actually turns it around, but FineOK still in the chase and gets it. That shoots for 3 now.
Yeah, that's not a great spot for Variety, and this Sunbeam Bow Rush has been a huge part of the meta so far this week, right? So much damage, you get a lot of sustain with the Death Toll procs, all that kind of good stuff, but it does leave you awfully squishy, and FineOK has really been one to punish that with an earlier game god in Poseidon. Poseidon's one that has kill potential as soon as he hits 5, but even before then when he got first blood at level 2.
Jake getting low, and the guy I was just going to talk about, Rat Milk, on the rotation. Streak is dashed away, Rat Milk in, that should be a pick onto Genetics. It is. Feels a love drop, the nice Hexstone to reposition. Now you've got Lasper here. Ult on from Rat Milk. Lasper low, gets the dash off, followed by the blink. One more good auto should do it. And there it is, double kill for Rat Milk. Looks like no further press from Borscht.
And Variety's actually made his way all the way over, so FineOK as well, matching that rotation. And with this Kraken local, you'd think this could be an opportunity for Gold Fury for Borscht.
Very spread out Gold Fury. It's already down to health. This Variety is down to no health. Gets the dash off, so he will live, if not barely. But that whole time, the Gold Fury was being done, and Borscht get their first one of the game at 9 minutes.
Didn't need the Kraken for the objective, just needs it to buy some space, and FineOK does exactly that. Normally, you'd think Poseidon in the back line should be something that doesn't seem right for Borscht, but this is the build. The experience, exactly level 11, the Gladiator shield there for him as well, means that there's plenty of just base tankiness from the level stats and from his itemization, so good spacing there from FineOK. And we saw, I was talking about the Athena ultimate in Smite 2 bringing Lasper, even though Genetics dies, being a positive in an earlier engagement, but in that last one it ended up being a negative because Genetics is dead to rights. Lasper ults a little late, and then Borscht just kind of spreads out for a moment and then reconvenes on top of Lasper as soon as he ends up landing.
Troubles continue for Variety. I mean, just low, but TKOs at this point aren't going to feel good either. Leaves your blue buff open to invade. Lasper's there for secure. Will run into Rat Milk. FineOK not close enough to force the issue, but it's always dangerous, especially looking at Variety anytime he gets low, because you really need Variety to start getting in this game.
It's going to be a while until that happens, though, unfortunately, Malum. Level 9, pretty far from real tank itemization. Yeah, working towards something, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a bit. And this is kind of to be expected when you see a triple mage comp from Borscht, right? This is the advantage of it, is that their early pressure, specifically centered around their ultimates, is going to be excellent. They're going to have a lot of tools to fight you in the early game, and that lack of tankiness isn't going to matter nearly as much.
FineOK just doing soul lane things with Variety, ult for ult, but what it's doing is buying an opening. But Rat Milk, not needed. I think Variety might have doubted the damage there that FineOK could do.
I think he was expecting Lasper's ultimate. I mean, I can't imagine he thought that there was any world where that was going to be a trade. Yeah, I mean, it was, at first I thought, okay, he's just going to use his ultimate to try and get FineOK's because He thinks that that's going to be an advantageous trade for him, even though Final K has way more cooldown rate. So I don't really think trading ultimates is even that good for Variety at that point. In Lasbra, he might have been saying, yeah, I got you with that ultimate, and then realized how far behind Variety was and went, oh, I was busy, actually, during that time.
Sorry, dude, I was in the item store.
Yeah, got a notification, like, pop up, you know, like, my bad on that.
Yeah, they put whispers in SMITE 2. Crazy thing, I was answering one.
Yeah. But just for them, don't check in your game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I want to go and talk about Rat Milk a bit, because one thing that Desk was talking about, and I know we've all talked about a bit this week, is Rat Milk and playing really aggressive has gone together. So far this game, he's got a good stat line, but we haven't seen him force the issue really anywhere as Queen Naga gets pulled and Genetics goes forward towards basket.
Just trying to buy some space for his team, but I don't know if it's going to buy enough as Rat Milk is here at 3-0-3. They're pulling it back deep, and look at this flank from Jake.
It's a really good one at that. You've also got a rotation
Oh,
from
man.
the ADCs. In goes Jake. Finds three, but gets knocked up before he can do much. And the Hexstone has to be used to just get away where Variety was waiting. He's back in. The Queen Naga is down with Variety towards the way of Borscht. They can turn and look for more with Final K. They almost find Genetics. And Rat Milk follows and brings down Genetics.
That was huge, man. The follow through on that wall. I thought Genetics had split the fight well enough to escape, but instead the chase was good from Borscht. It was synchronized blinks coming from Basket and Final K to help Rat Milk.
Is that going to be a dead Final K? Is he tanky enough? Yes, he is. I always don't trust the Whirlwind because it feels like it kills me in every game I play. So I saw it hit Final K and I assumed the worst. But for 13 minutes, this is a wild game state because it started out so close with the big notable point being Variety, and now Thief stepping up. That rapid hit. Now Borscht, they're pulling away in a comfortable and pretty quick manner.
Yeah, but I love that play there from Theeks because he delayed two people's backs, and it's right as Gold Fury spawning. Jake, this has kind of been a trend for him so far in a nice flank, but just can't seem to get the timing right. Last time he got blown up when he walked in between those two towers because Genetics sniffed out that flank really nicely. This time, Jake realizes that his team isn't there, in large part due to Theek stopping two backs so that they can't get there to defend that Gold Fury, and it earns Risk some more purchase in this match.
I feel like every time that Doug has gone to Variety, he's been in the middle of an ultimate, below half health.
Yes.
It's been the entirety of this game, which has really hurt those couple of times where Variety has made a gutsy rotation because you've got no ult. It's happening right now. Pyro's up. You've got Theeks there, ult out pretty early, doesn't even touch, and now Variety doesn't have the tools. Dashes in anyway, will not matter. Pyro to Borscht, they'll take Variety too.
I mean, at this point, people will say, oh, he's inting, but he's not worth that much gold. I don't mind the attempt.
Vortex brings back the Cuckoo, and he's got no ult to help himself out. The Kraken, the laser, they want Theeks dead, and they'll get just that.
I mean, now Theeks dying is much worse than Variety dying, because that's his first death, now going to fall a little bit farther behind in farm. And yes, is Variety dying for the 6th time not ideal? Of course, but he's not really worth that much gold, and if you can seal away that Pyromancer bomb, it will slow Borscht down from an eventual Fire Giant pull, from a tower siege, anything like that. I'm not saying I'm happy when Variety's on my team and he's 1-6 and 4 levels down from his lane opponent, but I will say that if I'm anyone here on Team Risk, it is also not the first time that Variety has been 1-6 and down 4 levels against his lane opponent. He's a veteran. He's had some games like this where it goes poorly, but he knows how to eventually put himself in a position to make an impact. Might just have a couple more stumbles along the way.
Might take some time.
Yeah.
And what's good too is Amaterasu has been one of the characters who, while you're behind, it just feels atrocious. When she gets there, you'll hit level 20 once. When it happens, you're in a great spot. Jake doesn't need the flank this time. Can just step into the mid lane. They follow Genetics, and he should go down, but maybe not. That Talisman is good to step away. Lasper's got the dash. And Team Risk is out of dodge.
I think Jake had his enhanced ability once he was in that Pillar of Agony and just didn't use it. I thought he'd dash and try and catch Genetics afterwards, but maybe was worried about jumping in the tower with Streak on the rotation. Think that should have still been a kill, but a really good Hexstone from Genetics made it a hard one either way.
Large rotation towards the right from Borscht. I mean, Variety, as you said, not much to contest right now. You could get really aggressive here, but do you? Is it too crazy?
Yeah, it's too crazy. I mean, you've got people coming from Borscht. You have your support on the way as well, though.
Maybe you find some picks. Baskin nearby with Jake, who's already had to use the Hexstone to reposition. Now Team Risk not in a great spot. They're trying to back up the lane, but Borscht, they just kind of get away with sending everybody right for no goal.
That was odd. I mean, Baskin walked right by Genetics. Baskin no blink at the time, and Genetics was just focused on killing Awesome Jake, which I get, but at the same time, that Anubis is a nice shutdown to get.
A lot is being forced, a lot of dancing for position, but nobody's overcommitting. The biggest fight over the red buff, a Kraken out to try to start things up. Lazarus taking the most poke, Variety with the dash away. Borscht go for the follow, but Risk was already too far back.
Just a little, I get it. Borscht really wants to make something happen. It feels really forced, and Risk is doing a great job at baiting it out.
Step up from Genetics. Wild Hunt hits. Lazarus in trouble too, but now they've split the difference and utilize Spear of the 9 Winds. You need that, but maybe you don't. Rat Milk goes down to Genetics, who gets the shutdown goal too. And Borscht find themselves a man down, but they find themselves still getting damage across. Basket attempts to get away, turns the corner, is still alive. The brings down Pagon, who was in a really bad spot. Jake, same problem, has it to save, but not long enough, and will follow suit in the grayscale.
How did Risk pull this off? What in the world just happened? They just went 4 for nothing in a full-on 5v5 where they were down like 5k gold walking into it. And it's because they just step a little bit forward, wait for Borscht to overcommit, and back it up. And then we step a little bit forward, and we wait for Borscht to commit, and then we back it up. And
hey,
then all of a
Kraken's down,
sudden,
guys.
yeah, Rat Milk ulted in and has no blink. We Ymir wall him. We kill him. Borscht just way overcommits, and I could not believe they wanted that fight still after losing the Hades ultimate in particular. This is just an absolute fumble here from Borscht.
So early too.
It was just, it just was real. They were winning the game, and they can continue to win the game by doing nothing for a little bit, right? I think that it sometimes gets lost that, oh, you know, we should make a play here. We should really make a play here, but you don't always need to do it. Winning and waiting a little bit longer is okay. Risk was not going to be able to recover this game unless you make a giant mistake, and that was the giant mistake that Risk was able to capitalize on. But give him credit as well. That was great in-out patience there from Risk on that team fight. Made Borscht make a couple mistakes.
Jake will have an ult force, does get the dash away to safety. And you said it perfect of just this idea of patience and the way they handled the fight too, because it's split, but they never lost sight of targets, and that's brought them back into this game nearly completely. And Borscht kind of again in an awkward spot. Team Risk is just stepping up slowly and finding Pagon quickly. Jake has to Hexstone, runs into Variety, gets the damage on. Variety's got backup from Risk, and Borscht might just continue to fall. In fact, they do. Jake's dead. One turnaround, it's Variety, but you might need more than that. Spear of the 9 Winds, not gonna hit, doesn't matter. Can Borscht turn it around? Can Rat Milk make a play? That answer almost is no. He gets away, everything missed.
Really well done on the way out, but not for Fine-OK. No Talisman of Purification, low on mana. But this Poseidon is so tanky.
Still standing and still throwing, finally goes down. When all said and done, 4 die for Borscht, 2 for Team Risk. But it's got to be said, because like you said it, do nothing, and the game's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Borscht do way too much. They lose 4, and now game state-wise, we're back to even Stevens.
Well, now they have to do stuff, because it is no longer in their hands that this game is just completely theirs to decide. Risk is now right there and even with them in this game. And when a game is even like this, you start to look at where the disparity is going to be. Variety still down 2 levels to Fine-OK, but Pagon is down 2 levels to Streaka. Would you rather have an Amaterasu who's 2 levels down or an ADC who's 2 levels down? I'd rather have the Ama who's down every day of the week. Variety can still be useful just by nature of the fact that his 1 is maxed, and that's an aura that does a lot for his team. He still has an ultimate that is going to be relevant at times. You know, he still has a Pharaoh's Curse that's going to be really annoying for Baskin, Rat Milk, and Pagon to deal with. This Kernanos, he's the top ADC, he's unseated Jingwei. For me, I felt like Tegvir was really struggling on him. I did not like that pick for him. I'm not liking it here for Pagon either. I feel like this Cupid counter pick has ended up working really well the vast majority of times we've seen it up against the Kernanos. And Pagon has just been a complete non-factor in this game.
It feels like when CERN can get that assassin kind of gameplay style online, it can get so far ahead, but if you can't find that flow, you just simply can't make it work.
And this is why teams play through duo so often, is because Borscht was winning the right side. They were winning solo lane, as here Pagon tries to get something going onto Lazara, but he's not going to get it there either. You get your lead on solo side, great, but Risk is the one with the lead in duo. That's 2 players in duo versus the 1 player who has a lead for Borscht on solo side. The duo lane for Risk is doing infinitely more this game. Genetics over Jake and Streak over Pagon.
Been so on it the whole time. When we were back at the beginning, you said that. It was the attention on duo. Genetics is huge, but Variety's in trouble. And FineOK, the monster, it's been quelled. FineOK goes down to Genetics. And Team Risk continue to look strong, and now they're even finding picks.
It's just too much to deal with right now for Borscht. I feel like they were playing so cohesively, they were all on the same page, and then all of a sudden, it's gone completely awry.
It only gets messier. Jake does find Genetics with some help from the tower as well. Backs away, and Borscht have a strong grouping around this tier 2. Fire Giant has fallen off of Team Risk, which I think they just all had the same conclusion of, oh, maybe we shouldn't force anything here.
I mean, it's hard to blame them because they've won like 3 fights in a row, where you start to feel a little immortal in these skirmishes, but a little bit brought down back to earth there with Genetics getting picked. Little bit of bad timing, but Borscht seems kind of scattered as well. They aren't here for this Fury. They're trying to set up around Pyromancer. They don't feel like they like their 4v4 opportunity. And again, it's kind of hard to blame them, just like it's hard to blame Risk for over-indexing on their strengths in that position. Borscht has lost how many fights in a row? Did they not pick up that bomb? No. Ratmilk, I think, thought he picked up the bomb. He went back for it, but it's still there. Jake should be able to grab it.
Let's go.
Borscht, it's hard not to lose confidence when you had a huge lead and then you've done nothing but lose as soon as you start to group.
Right.
They've got to find a way to beat their demons and show up for a 5v5 and win it.
There is a positive that Ancient Fury is on the tier 2 towers. No
True.
Phoenixes effective, and you have +2 positive runic bombs in play. So if you're able to turn something around and you can maybe have a Fire Giant, you can basically delete one objective of your choice, but they've got to get to that point, and as you've been pointing out, Borscht's team fights do not look good enough to do that.
No, they haven't really put together the composition yet. And you'd think with 3 mages, the comps get pretty easy, where it's just giant AoE on top of giant AoE, but it hasn't played.
Ratmilk picked, not dead yet, gets the ult away, not stunned. So not dead, but a lot burned. Team Risk aware, they're gonna go right to fire.
You still have to worry about Kraken. It's not full damage, so it's not the end of the world.
Jake dashes in, gets caught. There's the Kraken and the Pillar of Agony. That's 2 big-time ultimates down from Borscht, and for really nothing. I mean, Team Risk not pulling fire, but...
Yeah, I think Jake has not really been on the money with these Hades ultimates so far. I mean, so much of the strength of this character is in that ultimate, particularly in Smite 2, where you now get an enhanced ability during Pillar of Agony. You've got to make each one of those casts count, and Jake just hasn't been able to do it so far.
Jake dashing in again, caught, frozen in the Whirlwind 2. He dashes away, he's alive for now. That was a big time ult. Borscht might just pay, but Baskin's able to get a double through it, but Streak couldn't be stopped until Pagon dashed in. We're losing everybody on the map. FineOK with the blink away in the last hit. He'll survive. 3 dead for Team Risk, thanks to Baskin and Ratmilk. 2 dead on Borscht.
What a play by Theeks. I think he saves this entire fight.
I'm with you.
For Risk, because Borscht was able to get Risk into a small corridor where all their damage could overlap. And then we see all the AoE exactly come to fruition for them. I did not like Jake leading with dash on someone that didn't even see him. It felt like a little bit too much of a risk, but still is able to get out thanks to that Cersei's Hexstone, which is such a great counter to something like Cupid ult. In Pagon, it's the first fight where he feels relevant, right? Where he was able to get some actual uptime on his damage, and he helps turn it after Theeks hit a massive ultimate.
Testing the water is a Fire Giant. FineOK's on it. Jake is not. Pagon's right with Jake. So no committal from Borscht. Team Risk, they're plenty aware. We're in the dancing stage now, but what's so weird is it feels like we've been in that Fire Giant dance stage for a very long time this game.
When you've gotten a lot of Furies off the board already, and those have kind of gone mostly uncontested so far, it means the only thing left that's a huge objective is Fire Giant, but even just getting the Ancient Fury is a big deal. The minion wave killed the tier 2 on Borscht side of the map because that tower was debuffed. So still some benefit there for Risk.
Freeze on a Jake and a Heart Bomb. How many times have we seen that so far this game? This time, Jake gets away plenty ahead, but I mean, at half health, you have Sustain, but it's slowing down Borscht's efforts around this fire.
Yeah, I wonder what Jake is building next. I mean, he's got a Killing Stone, so that's a pretty offensive item that he's going for. I think a Spirit Robe would really serve him pretty well because, like you said, all this follow-up is coming from freeze into damage. If the freeze is what's starting every engagement for you, then something like Spirit Robe could be pretty useful.
We're going to have to do something to mix it up. We're getting closer to that 30-minute mark, and the heat checks have been non-stop, so there's been no need to do it ourselves, but it feels like every time one team gains a bit of ground, there's some kind of mistake, which usually it's the good play that brings the game back close. This time it really has been missteps and mishaps that have gotten both teams to keep it close.
So who's going to stay clean is kind of the question. And I think at this point, the chaos has subsided enough that both teams can take that deep breath and talk about, hey, here's how we want to play the fight. We want to play it front to back. Wait for Jake to come in. He's not really getting good ults. Make sure we're spread so we're not getting hit by all the Anubis damage. And if you're Borscht, it's let's see if we can let some poke happen before we really start a fight full out.
Fire is at half. Borscht is aware and trying to get closer. Lasper slows it down with the taunt. Fire lower. Genetics able to secure the Fire Giant. Borscht try to force the fight, but they can't find much. They do find Lasper, who couldn't get the ult off in time, but that Heart Bomb kills Jake in the back line. So far, one loss apiece.
Good burn there on the Fire Giant, but they're looking for more.
And they go. Talisman's out. Dazzling offensive, but can you find anybody? Ravnil get to the back line, trying to find someone, but Streak gets down big on first. Now they trade out. A Variety was able to handle that Loki. The dog is dead too. Fine, okay. All of a sudden, the last one standing for Team Risk to take down. It's an impossible chase with the takiness, but 4 dead when all is said and done.
Borscht just groups up too much. You know, we've talked about Borscht's composition being the one that really does well when enemies are grouped, but Risk is no slouch with their composition on it either. Kukulkan AoE damage, you've got the damage coming from Variety, Genetics able to wall some people off, and Borscht, they felt like they needed to get something because they got just 1-for-1 for Fire Giant, and I just feel like they aren't really identifying their right windows and when to call off a fight. Knowing when to cut your losses is a difficult thing to really master, and I think it's one that, especially in a new game like SMITE 2, not everyone is perfectly attuned to how much damage am I really going to do, how much damage can I really take from this composition, and that's why you end up with some of these really one-sided fights where Borscht should obviously just not be chasing into that narrow corridor against Kukulkan damage, against Ymir wall, against an Amma who still has ult, and all we've done is picked the Athena, and now they've got Fire Giant, which is such a big buff for in combat these days. Borscht just, for me, they aren't picking the right fights quite yet, and it's going to be hard to win when you aren't picking the right fights.
I want to call back earlier, you mentioned you were looking for the next item of Awesome Jake. He's gone a Staff of Mirrodin, which I don't think it's bad necessarily, but I find it ironic because we've been talking about how the dashes haven't been on point.
Yeah.
So you're adding another.
Well, now he just gets a dash. Yeah. Now he just gets to, he gets a second try, you know? It's just a do-over. You can.
Is that the right choice?
I mean, it's Jake. Like I said at the very start of this cast, I've given up on trying to perfectly understand Awesome Jake at any point, and generally just trusting him to do what he knows can be successful. From my narrow point of view on what I expect to happen in this game, I am surprised to see it be Staff of Mirrodin, but he needs to do a little more, and maybe this is what lets him do it.
Variety was caught, but is now a takey. We got to that point we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Where Variety would just be a normal player in the
From
game.
1-6 to 4-7.
And it matters. Some poke on last, but nothing serious. Now Team Risk begin that oh-so-anxious feeling of stepping up at the Phoenix line.
Variety's trying to split 1v1, and there is an Ancient Fury debuff on these structures. Not the right side Phoenix, because that tier 2's still up, but very relevant on how quickly they can poke it down. Look at Streak's damage, it's dead.
It's just so much with the Sunbeam bow, and then he dashes out with the heist complete. Now the mid Phoenix being looked at solely by Variety, who's plenty okay. Wrapped up now, might just die, but the reinforcements arrive. Not in time to save Variety. Borscht have a chance to step up. The Agony hits this time, and Jake takes through a lot. In goes Fine okay. Can they find kills? Yes, they can. A double for Baskin. Pagon starts cleaning up too. Genetics will turn around to buy some time, but he should go down, and Borscht hang on.
How many of these 4-for-0s or 4-for-1s have we seen this game? And it just flips on its head on which side it's going to be. This time it's Borscht who finally are able to find the right engagement for themselves. And it's layering those circles, waiting for some key abilities to be used, and then using their ultimates. They didn't overlap their CCs and their ultimates as they had in a lot of these fights. They bait out Streak's dash and his Aegis, and then we Kraken him. You know, it's things like that that line that fight up so much better for Borscht. And they're going to be able to get a mid Phoenix here without a doubt. I think an end is really scary though here, Malum. Lots of they still have tier 2 towers on each side lane. It's going to be close.
Variety's up. Radnok takes the 1v1 with Theeks. It's a scary one to do. The blink forward. The damage is on. That ultimate not going to hit Radnok with his Zephyr. Sure were. Wow, he got popped. Now onto the Titan go Borscht, but things are falling apart. Right at their fingertips. Borscht cannot end this game. Team Risk is tired of losing.
I don't blame them for the call, Malum. I mean, this is the one fight we've won in the last 20 minutes. We might as well try and make it the last, but Risk just has the respawn timers. Borscht did not have the damage or the tankiness in order to stand up, and it's going to be Team Risk who should be able to just march it down mid and take game 1.
Fine, okay, caught in the jungle, the last soldier to fall for Team Borscht, and Team Risk, they can walk it down mid, the perfect defense. I saw the play. It's funny, we touched on the aggression from Ratmilk. It all came down to a play that, understandable as it were, it did blow up in the face of Borscht, and Team Risk will take game number 1, the first game of the Vegas bracket.
I mean, Theeks did such a great job. He was the one member left alive after that team fight on the Borscht side of the map, and he gets a really key 1-3 as they're sieging the tier 2 in mid. And then he walks up again, gets a little bit more poke when they're getting the Phoenix, and then even though he doesn't hit his ultimate on the Titan defense, he's done enough damage and bought enough time to make that end difficult there for Borscht. Risk, I mean, you got to give this team credit, man. They have had a rough day where they don't get either of their best of ones that they want. This is a team that has lofty expectations, and they are the 3rd seed out of their group.
Crazy.
They are down early in that game. Variety is sprinting it in their solo lane.
Every time.
And they win a fight down 5K, 4-for-0, and end up just completely flipping this game on its head. I mean, the mental resilience of this team is absolutely evident.
That's the key. It's the resilience that now pays off, and it gives you the dividends of renewed strength and confidence. You're back, and I think I even said this on the desk where they had lost a game. They have to figure out and remember who they were throughout the entirety of the Founders Series. This was a very long tournament. It's not easy to be undefeated the whole time. Cowabunga proved that in the playoffs, but Team Risk finding it in game number 1, and Borscht, I feel like they threw a lot of what usually works at Team Risk, and just none of it clicked.
I really feel like they just got a little dizzy in that mid game where they just could not figure out how they wanted to structure their team fights. You know, whether it's their target selection, their fight selection, I think in general needed a little bit of work, their positioning in these fights. They just let Risk make all of these fights go from burst engagements to long duration engagements. And Risk just seemed so much more coordinated and worked so much better as a unit than Borscht did in that game. So if I'm Borscht, I'm either thinking about drafting a better team fight composition and thinking about let's simplify our game plan, right? Let's kill one person first and then the rest can follow, instead of just trying to overlap all of our circles, make these wombo combos work, because right now they just aren't operating on that level.
You've got to do something different, and one thing I'll say is that it certainly all of a sudden feels like a new bracket. It feels like a new day already. It feels like the quality of games for Vegas is kind of already smacking us in the face, and I guess the perfect time to do so too, right?
Hey, these guys are vets, you know. They know when it's time to start making the real plays happen, to start bringing the heat, and I think they definitely did in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one for sure too, to see how Ratmilk adjusts, being that kind of newer presence to the rest of the squad, and how he can kind of turn things around and see if he can step up, because going into this, on desks on Smite Too Long Didn't Watch, he was being called the hyper carry, the jungle to watch.
It's going to be tough, though, and the team like Risk is so good at staying condensed. You know, Theeks and Streak did not get separated very well, and Loki doesn't do great against death ball compositions. Risk death balls with the best of them. I don't know if he's going to go back to it. And if he does, he's going to need some help separating the team fight a bit.
Yeah, he really will for sure. I don't know, as we get closer to break, I really do wonder kind of how things are going to turn around for it for sure.
I think it's going to be a little bit of a reset. I mean, I think a lot of players are going to, or people in chat probably are talking about the Hades support and all this kind of stuff, but I really think that it's just about getting Borscht on the same page. And
exactly.
that page is not traditional with that team very often, right? So I don't expect it to look normal. I just expect them to execute better.
And if the veteran leadership can pull through to bring the rest of the team up alongside of it. But these are all questions that are better off asked in game number 2, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with that.
Devastation will Immortals have invaded my realm, and my children rebel against me. Dark days these are. But my strength shall bring resolution, and my lightning, illumination! Zeus!
Bologna.
Anubis!
Scylla. Kukulkan.
Surtur!
Team Risk take game number 1 here in our Las Vegas SMITE 2 Founder Series bracket. And if you've ever wanted your PC to resemble the shining lights of the Las Vegas Strip, Starforge Systems has you covered. A sweet lineup of those backplates, a variety of gods as you saw in that ad just now, and then a really sweet system on top of all of that to be playing SMITE, SMITE 2, and whatever you're playing at home at the highest quality. Of course, worth mentioning, if you like all the gear that you've currently got in your PC and you just want the case, that's an option as well. Head on over to starforgesystems.com/products/SMITE and take a peek. See what they've got there. Maybe something there for you. Something there for Team Risk, though, inbound in game number 1. Goodness, first of all, what a game number 1. After 3 tiebreaker games that felt pretty lopsided, kind of runaway games, that number 3 was a little bit funky. This is a game 1 where there was a runaway, and then there was a turnaround and run the other way, and then we ran the other way again. But it's ultimately Team Risk that kind of steel up that mental, shore up that mental, and find the win.
Yeah, and realistically, that early game, dominant by Team Risk. If you would have looked away after the first few minutes, you probably would have assumed this is just Team Risk the entire game. But really, Final K on this Poseidon solo and Rat Milk on the Loki, they kind of kept them in it. They had a lot of good rotations.
Yep.
Variety got soloed a few times by Final K.
Poor Variety.
Yeah, Aggro said something on Caster. He's like, not a great last hour.
Yeah, last hour and a half's been tough for Variety.
That was a little tough, but as soon as you get out of laning phase as Amma, she is so impactful. And the, I guess, semi-weak point of that Amma build is you're just not great at living against mages in solo lane. They just do too much consistent damage, and you cannot live it. But Variety makes the most out of it, lives the laning phase as well as he kind of could, and then he rotates to fights. And Amaterasu as a character, when it comes to, if you're behind, there's not very many other gods that are as good as the Amma. And on top of that, I mean, we have to shout out the late game Kukulkan by Theeks. What a perfect positioning, perfect team fight placements of the ultimates, the tornadoes, and really, he's the one that we should kind of be praising for. I mean, if you're a Team Risk fan, them winning this game. That defense was perfect. He ults, hits Rat Milk as he's getting ulted by the Loki, gets the Aegis off in time, and also hits Jake with the ult. It was beautiful. So yeah, shout out Theeks for that defense.
Theeks has been, I mean, honestly, in years of SMITE competitive history, one of the best mid laners, one of the most consistent mid laners, really, in his time playing this game.
Yeah, and I'd argue he's probably the most underrated. Paul's always put it 1, 2 is like Shinto.
Yep.
I mean, Theeks, the model of consistency is always going to be on these top teams. And
Yep.
I mean, at least in SMITE 2 so far, probably the most impressive mid laner. I think you're 100% right.
Picked up right where SMITE 1 left off for Theeks and looking good at the start of SMITE 2. The cast talked a little bit about Awesome Jake. And what did Ryan say? I gave up trying to figure out Jake 30 minutes ago. I gave up 3 years ago. That is the Awesome Jake experience. And I say that with respect for a very talented player, but Jake giveth and Jake taketh away. The Hades support wasn't the best here in game number 1, but got to take the good with the bad with this duo lane.
And that's part of the difficulty of playing against Jake is he'll just run at your backs 1v3 and you're like, oh, his entire team's behind him. In reality, they're on the opposite side of the map and Jake's just giving you this distance.
Yep.
And it makes it impossible to play against. If you don't know what you're doing, or if Jake doesn't know what he's doing, you don't know what Jake's doing, it's impossible to read. And you'll see it at multiple points where you're like, Jake, what are you doing? And it works out. Jake, what are you doing? It doesn't work out. That's just what you get with him.
It is. And just as prone to a really good game, and that's what Borscht are hoping for here in game number 2. Cannot emphasize this enough. This is a best of 3. This is not a knockout game. Every single team that is still around is going to Vegas. This is the first couple of games in the upper portion of that bracket, and the rest of it, it's like 7 or 8 or 9 sets getting played out in Vegas throughout the rest of this weekend. So Team Risk would love to keep themselves in that upper portion of the bracket. Borscht hoping to fight against that. So when you turn your eyes towards picks and bans here, Bobby, after the way that game 1 went, if you're Borscht, I mean, you may be dropping the creativity around that support pick a bit. You're maybe giving Jake something a bit more standard in that role.
Yeah, I think it was just a really good P's and B's by Team Risk last game. You made Jake pick something weird because all the good supports are gone. I mean, this one you're already switching it up completely. Athena is the one banned by Borscht, taking that out of Lasbra's hand. But, I mean, I guess my issue is Borscht could have tried to do the same thing that Team Risk just did, banning away all the supports. I mean, you'll see the Sobek banned. They're looking for this first pick. They're getting this Umoja, but you want to know Genetics is just going to play? Ymir. And, I mean, obviously Umoja is going to be slightly more value, but it's kind of a coin flip in terms of how much more value. And I think the best thing about this also is they don't have to pick the Ymir here. Ymir's not a flex pick. Umoja's not a flex pick. They get this absolutely insane Amaterasu. They can go for something like the CERN. Actually, I almost prefer not picking the CERN here. They do lock in the Ymir, confirm it. I think not picking the CERN here is actually wise because they've shown that they'll just play the Cupid into it, and that's a really good matchup for Cupid. So I like how they played this one so far.
A lot of Sobek, what's the word I'm looking for?
Bans?
Yeah, bans, but respect is the word I'm looking for inbound. Sobek respect for Genetics and Awesome Jake. I'm not sure we'll get to see it unless something else is an obvious ban here a little bit later on. So Amaterasu, Ymir for Team Risk to start it off. Talked a little bit about ADC. Baskin, pretty quiet game, I think, in game 1. Really hard, especially when you're thinking around Theeks, and we talk about how talented Theeks is. Great, we pick away the Kukulkan. Still got the Hecate. There are plenty of other gods in that mid lane pool. And I've talked about it a little bit, but that dynamic of just the one ban keeps things unique. So it's just the Umoja locked in right now for Borscht. There's some obvious, this is what I would like to see next in those next couple of picks.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that stick out for Borscht's side of things. I don't like the Anubis that Baskin goes back to. I think it's not proving as valuable as these Cuckoos, the Hecates, the Poseidon, even when you put it in mid lane. I haven't really liked the Anubis. I think it is, it's obviously not bad, and it's something where there is value there, but I think it's a lot easier to make like a Raw work, a Cuckoo, Hecate. I think those characters are just easier to pull off, and there's less threat onto them. So I want to see Baskin go towards more of a stereotypical mid laner, not towards that Anubis.
Yep.
And I think Agro says this on the cast where I think CERN value needs to drop a little bit. I think we've shown now, like, yeah, you can play the CERN, you can pick the CERN. A lot of teams just play it, don't pick it with Prio in that support role. So then you just have this very hard, aggressive dual lane character, and you're pairing it with a losing support, and you just lose that threat of the CERN. So unless you're pairing it with something great, just delay it, and you have this Umoja. You're not winning dual lane Umoja, CERN versus Ymir and whatever they pick, really. So just delay the CERN, pick something like the Poseidon, something you can flex it in solo or support, and then maybe just lock in the Loki, make sure you get a strong threat there, and then just wait. Pick something, not the Anubis, and pick for that dual lane 2v2. Don't just lock in the CERN because you think it's a good character. There's a reason teams play it. It's because it wins lane, so pick it if you're going to win lane.
We'll get to answer some of those questions going back into picks and bans for game number 2. Appreciate your patience. Just a quick lobby remake, so don't you worry. Those first handful of things are going to be looking the exact same, of course, as a reminder, as the Athena and the Sobek respect. I won't forget that word twice. I'm full
Good
of
job.
respect inbound, and won't catch me forgetting it again. That was a Umoja first pick for Borscht. And you were wondering if maybe we would see an early ADC pick, wondering where this Ymir pick that you figured would come out for Genetics would fall. And of course, that was the second pick for him. So this is where we started to theorize what we would see from Borscht, CERN. I'm seeing some fist pumps from inbound.
Bad fist pumps, like disaster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was a smile or...
That's a good one. That's like a,
Okay.
not disaster.
So what direction are the fist pumping after picks 2 and 3 for Borscht?
They're just
You're hanging
middling.
out.
Yeah.
Hands on the desk.
Like, okay, you get the CERN. Yeah, you're pairing it with the Emoja. You're not winning this 2v2. You're picking it into a bad 2v2 matchup into this Ymir and this Cupid. And that's something we maybe even forgot to mention is Lasbra coming into this tournament. I mean, this Odin was getting banned away from him, and now he's going to be able to go back to that pick. Dave, I'm just really liking Team Risk's side so far.
Well, and they're a team that's now starting to play with a stronger mental. But you fist pumped again inbound, but the hands are high, the hands are high in the air. I guess that's how you angry fist pump. Disaster, he screams, as Anubis is the 5th and final pick. A blue theme for Borscht. Kind of a red theme outside of Ymir for Team Risk. That doesn't mean anything, but I'm a chair 1. That's all I see. And Zeus will finalize the draft. Does that make you feel better still towards the end? You liked 1 through 4 for Team Risk. Does number 5 still give you just a better feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I like the entire draft by Team Risk. I think they've crafted a really good front-to-back style. I think they have smart laning phases. And I'm just worried about Borscht because, yeah, you have this CERN. If you kill early game, I mean, pre-3, 4, 5, this is going to be looking good. The CERN's going to look really good, but we've now seen the CERN a few times in a row where it's just picked. Nothing really happens, and then you just get outscaled. The Cupid does more at level 5. You're just getting threatened, and it's the same issue I have with Anubis. You're just there's not enough value you're getting from these characters for the value you're putting on them in P's and B's. I guess Anubis not much value, but I mean Zeus is getting last picked, and I would take Zeus over Anubis.
I'll give you an out though. What are some opportunities for win here for Borscht? What do you want to see this team do with the composition they've selected? Where can they win this game?
I mean, you have to play around the Poseidon. I think Alec, Final K, was the lone bright spot for the middle portion and the earlier portions of the game. Play around his rotations. You have really good objective damage with CERN, with Anubis, with Poseidon. I'm just worried about team fights. So play towards those objectives, get that lead, and then the team fights are going to be a lot easier.
Team Risk will move themselves on in the upper bracket with a win here, or if Borscht take a win, we'll be headed on to a game number 3. Malum, Aggro, it's all yours.
Thank you indeed, and don't worry, Aggro, my fist bumps, my celebrations, they're very easy to read.
Okay.
So we should be good in that angle.
That's good. Yeah, it's crazy that Bobby can somehow mess up a physical gesture and use that wrong. It's almost impressive.
Oddly impressive,
yeah.
I would even say. But hey, guys like us, no problem at all. But Borscht and Team Risk, Borscht seeing not too much of a problem with their previous composition, with the exception of the support role, which I was pretty happy to see myself.
Yeah, I mean, look. The Emoja is a huge difference for Borscht in this draft, right? It just simplifies the game for them, exactly what I was asking for. But I do still share Inbound's concern with Borscht's composition. And it's really more centered around Ratmilk and how he is going to be able to play in this game. Because Emoja, while a more traditional support than Hades, still doesn't buy your assassin a ton of space in a fight. It's more about separating a team fight from her backline. It stops dive onto her ADCs, but it doesn't really set up dive. In fact, it kind of groups up the enemy team inside River's Rebuke sometimes, and that's not what Loki wants. He wants for their front line to get separated and for him to have an angle into the backline unfettered. Now, you can do that with River's Rebuke, but if you've done that, then any assassin will be great because you've won your team the game off of the Emoja ultimate, and it's completely agnostic of what the actual assassin is going to be doing. I just don't think anyone makes space for Ratmilk in this game, just like they didn't last time. The Poseidon's great for Final K, but it's not great for Ratmilk.
A lot of damage on Genetics to start. He's got a long way to go and is getting slower and slower. But Streak arrives, and that's enough to keep him safe. And also to the point of Ratmilk and selections, it feels like throughout Founder Series, when Borscht has not looked their best, Ratmilk sometimes almost feels stuck to a god per set. Yesterday, it was the Thanatos, where it was like, yeah, this has looked great at times, but gotta get off it. The blink, the damage variety, still unable to catch a break in a laning phase. He gets away, but still the damage done hurts.
He's out this time. Okay. If he died the exact same way, where he contests a buff and Final K blinks on him after hitting level 2 and killed him, I would have been losing my mind. But luckily, my mind is still intact. He's good.
Mentals are good. Genetics trying to step up and create something, but it turns damage on a streak. The root, the dash, dead! First blood goes the way of Borscht, and Pagon repositions to be A-OK. Genetics does get the freeze. Maybe not so A-OK, but there it is, separated. Clean first blood.
I mean, look, Hades' support is great, everyone, but look at what Yamoja can do, right? I mean, am I right? He does so much more damage in the early stages of the game. He commands lane pressure for you, and he gets the dash there from Streak and sets up the kill. Beautifully done by Awesome Jake and Pagon. And getting Pagon a lead like this, we talked so much about how much duo lane leads can matter in game 1. Now, if that shoe is on the other foot, Borscht is in a much more stable footing.
Exactly. It almost feels a little bit comfortable to expect, especially with the start, for Variety to have a rougher laning phase.
Sure.
If you add to that equation a strong duo for Borscht, that just leaves mid, and I agree with Bobby. Wow, everyone's saying that today. Crazy day.
Rare.
Baskin on the Anubis has just not been my favorite combination. He's undeniably looked good, but it's never felt like it locks down W's for Borscht.
Yeah, it's a pick that when your team is not winning, it will look really bad, but it does do a lot for a composition. I think that Anubis is undervalued in general in the Smite community. I mean, it has so much utility in its kit, just not needing setup for his own CC, not needing anyone to hold his hand to get kills is a really big deal. As a mid laner, it's almost instant pressure on your mid wave, which is a massive deal in almost any matchup. So I'm not as much of an Anubis detractor. It's just that I think that Risk's comp is so much easier to play, and it's just got so many great targets for this Odin cage, and there is no Phantom Shell whatsoever here on Borscht. And it's the classic combo of Odin cage into Zeus ult that is just going to kill you unless you can get out of the cage. And Blink does let you get out of the cage, so it's not like they absolutely needed a Phantom Shell, but I'll bet you there's going to be a couple fights where we're saying, boy, that would have helped.
Rotation out from Rat Milk, seeing what can be done. Genetics is the most far forward, gets the most damage, but has the rocket jump to step away. So, good presence, decent damage, but 0 kill, not really a chance. Fine, okay though, another solo. Not quite the dash away for Variety. Makes them all right.
Whirlpool came up just in time as Lazarus got to use that Odin cage just to buy himself
Just
a way out from that Baskin rotation. Don't think Baskin was able to get that red buff. Think Lazarus was able to steal it away. But he's making his rotation towards that right side, trying to make sure that Variety stays even.
Cupid pieces out. You talked about the shell. I feel like that's a really important point. 3 charges on, the Loki responds, the blink away, followed up, left kill, dead, mid kill, is it there? Gotta find the auto! Finally locked down. 3 total now for Borscht, but the 2 dead on Team Risk at the same time, that feels real good.
Streak just hit level 5. Everyone in duo hit level 5 except for Pagon, and what do you know, he dies for it. Just doesn't end up getting access to that ultimate in time, and Streak and Genetics are able to take him down, but at least they also kill Genetics at the same time. So not the end of the world there for Pagon, but not feeling good for him to be behind after getting first blood. Sometimes that's how it happens, where you reset the wrong time. Speaking of a almost wrongly timed reset, Variety lucky to, not lucky, good veteran play to not be in your item shop and be able to react in time to that Kraken.
Almost got caught still by the now 3 of the wave. Almost caught him on the way out. But I want to emphasize the point you made. The Phantom Shells, that's happened so much in Founder Series where it's like, oh, we don't need it, and then you need it. So we'll see if that ends up showing to be a problem. Zeus damaged by the Anubis ult, but not really in too much trouble, which kind of goes back to the talking point of Anubis in general. I feel like Baskins looks so strong on picks like the Morrigan.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is Baskin's going to look good on every pick.
That's valid.
Baskin, you know, he's going to find success on whatever he's going to play.
Ever since they moved him out of solo to mid.
Yeah, I mean, that guy doesn't do a whole lot of losing in his career, so and he doesn't do a whole lot of getting carried either. He's usually the one wearing the backpack. That was Anubis damage without him having a completed tier 3 item. Theeks had his soul gem done. Baskin was still sitting on his components. If he gets that wrap with a soul gem proc into the ultimate, he only is going to need a tiny bit of help in order to get that killing blow, and Rat Milk can be there pretty easily on the Loki.
Solo lane will be a full commit. There's a jump. Blink away. Fine, okay, A-okay. Rat Milk interested in more variety. Takes a lot, but that shield turns around. Maybe more than Rat Milk anticipated. Not the same variety it was just a game ago.
No, he's in a much better spot this time around. Level 7 to Final K's level 7 instead of level 4 to Final K's level 7 or whatever it ended up being in the last game. This Ama still going the same build, still going to be squishy. I like Rat Milk being over there as Final K caught the dash and caught variety.
No.
So even though he's in a better spot, he's still squishy, which is what I was just saying. He's still able to be killed in those right moments. And that's twice now that Final K has dropped a Kraken underneath the tower, but only once where he gets the kill.
This Poseidon for Fine, okay, it reminds me of the Baron right in playoffs for Borscht that was able to get them to this point and combining both. Rat Milk takes the fight. Can he find it? Indeed, with the combination of Fine, okay, down he will go.
Yeah, nice setup there. The patience from Rat Milk is excellent, just kind of following in stealth, waiting until Final K is close enough that he can drop a Whirlpool after the Assassinate stun and make sure the Lasber doesn't get a chance to get his ultimate off. This right side again for Borscht, looking pretty strong, but as we saw in the last game, accelerating your solo lane mage is not the same value as accelerating a solo lane frontliner.
Genetics gets a jump away. The laser has a hard time hitting thanks to the Hexstone. So it's paying its dividends and keeps the Ymir safe as can be. 7.5 minutes have passed. No Gold Fury started up yet. 5 minutes has been a time where teams are interested, but not quite this time.
And as I was saying, the mage in solo just doesn't control a game like an Amaterasu or Chalk or any of these more frontline-centric characters.
Even a Node
really can, but it is also able to generate a lead by itself more easily. It just doesn't utilize it quite as well. So never saying that it's not worth playing or it's not as good, but it has some downsides.
Vix has already taken a lot of damage despite the good ult, but the Chain Lightning's enough and Rat Milk will go down. Baskin not looking much better. Same can be said for Jake. That's 2 dead, but matter of fact, Baskin turns it around on Lasbro. The levels were too low, but the wrap wide right allows Lasbro to live yet another day, but damage done, 2 picks.
Feeks in the quintessential Zeus experience right there. Takes a lot of damage, but hits his Chain Lightning and drops his ultimate. And what do you know? It's not him that dies, it's the people who were diving him. That's the whole reason why sick freaks like me love playing.
I was just going to say, spoken like somebody who knows a thing or two about Zeus.
I love it. I love when these disgusting junglers think they can come to my lane with their support and gank me and get away with it, man. I'll get 2 for 1 all day. I don't care, but I just love that feeling of I'm taking you with me, and Zeus is the best at it.
So good at it. And I like the talk about Theeks we heard in the desk of there's got to be more respect put to the name. So consistent in Founders, and we'll see if it keeps paying off. Final K in trouble, avoids a stun. Rat Milk's here, speaking of stuns, there's 2 for the Kraken to set up, and them both go down! Double kill for Rat Milk on a picture-perfect rotation.
2 for 1 sale right there on the Kraken meal, man. Great setup from Rat Milk. And Final K doesn't panic when he gets jumped on that time, doesn't try and run towards his tower, runs towards his teammate, and sets himself up. Good patience. The thing about this Ama and Odin, yes, they are difficult to deal with in the later game, but in the early game, they're not going to insta-kill me. You know, I've got a little bit of time. I can't just get caged and live. Their basic attacks will kill you, but it's not going to happen quickly.
Streak and Genetics seem kind of just more like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
With that ultimate, they walk away.
Phantom Shell.
Jake will be down for an ult. And not too much traded, but look at Gold Fury getting pulled by Borscht. Team Risk aware. Are they interested in contesting? Genetics flying forward says yes. Fine, okay, still on. There's the Hexstone. The ults come out. Gold Fury to 1,000. Genetics is dead, and the Gold Fury belongs to Borscht.
Yeah, good job there by Borscht, just making sure that they have to kill Genetics first before they DPS the Gold Fury. Genetics goes early, but he also can't afford to wait because they'll just kill him.
Turned around on and not taking anybody with you this time. Theeks was too low to begin with, and yet another kill for Borscht, now up to 9, and they're all starting to pile in quickly. Pagon? Oh, he's fine. Never a worry.
Yep, just had enough Omi at the end there to use the 2. And I love this play from Borscht. I love the aggressiveness, but this aggressiveness comes with a price, and that's 3 blinks that were used in that sequence there for Borscht. Baskin blinking over the Chain Lightning to set himself up for the stun. Everyone blinking into position to get that Fury or get those kills afterwards. And now it's a big burst of gold that they get off that play, and it's worth the blinks in that sense. But Risk have to know that, hey, we don't have to worry about Borscht being as aggressive for the next few minutes. You've got 3 minutes plus where Borscht can't use their relic. What can Risk do with that time? If the answer is simply weather the storm in scale, I think that's acceptable because Team Risk's composition scales great. All they need to do is get to a point where it's 5-on-5, and Borscht didn't show me anything that would scare me at that point last game, right? If I'm on Team Risk, I'm going, hey, not the end of the world. They were up way more than this, later than this last game, and we stomped them every team fight but one. So I wouldn't stress here if I'm Team Risk, and it shouldn't be a window of aggression too big here for Borscht without those blinks.
It goes back to what we've been saying in this set in particular, but kind of throughout the day. There are times where just passivity pays, and this is one of those moments where you've got to play it patient. Ult for ult in solo, we've seen that quite a few times, and luckily for ID this time, not a Rat Milk around the corner, ready to do some work. Theeks though, getting the work, getting the hands, getting the laser, getting dead. Rat Milk with the credit, so he wasn't solo, he was mid, ready to pick one up.
Good wrap there from Baskin, good rotation in from Awesome Jake, and even though Theeks has bought himself a Talisman of Purification to get that ever so important active effect and some magical protection, and he's got the blink, that's also on cooldown. Zeus just not enough survivability there in order to survive.
And here it is for Variety, but he's got the dash early on, so plenty okay. And the attention right, it's okay, because nothing's really up on left aside from that Queen Naga.
Exactly, nothing doing. And you can see Risk posturing aggressively. Let's find something, and it was nearly Pagon, as that wall just barely didn't catch him. But this is smart from Borscht. What's their only play? If we have killed their mid laner, if we've showed our face right side, if we're looking for buff invades over here, we know their buffs are coming up, what is Risk's only possible counterplay to this? Let's avoid it, and they do so nicely on the duo side.
Fine, okay, testing the waters, looking for Theeks, too far away. Variety will run in. Usually I'd say, oh, he's a soul laner, he's fine, but I never trust it anymore with how Variety's been treated throughout this set. And as it's been, we go lane to lane and see action to action. A cage committed, Theeks nearby. Looking for the chain lightning off the minion, not gonna find it. The laser turnaround on to Lasbra. Can Baskin stand through this? Can he take anyone with him? No, Rat Milk here. Too late for Lasbra, does find Theeks, and the Kraken makes it easy.
Almost had enough there from Baskin, but still trades 1 for 1 at the end. Not too bad for Borscht in that trade. I'm a little nervous though, Malum, because Theeks, he's a great player, and we should be giving him more credit. But my man did just create a very large Venn diagram with his ultimate and his Odin ult. Not ideal.
Pyromancer is low. It will get grabbed by Borscht. Can they pick a fight too? They seem to have an interest, but it gets called off. You've got a split pushing Cupid. You've got position. You've got Pyro.
It was a great ult from Jake. Genetics had Sunder, and it was the only one in that area that was up. Jake's the only one with Sunder on Borscht, and his was on cooldown. So I thought that was going to be stolen away by Risk, but that River's Rebuke kept Genetics perfectly outside of Sunder range.
Trouble for Jake. CC'd around. Silence too. Committed all these. So dead.
Yeah, but Genetics used Sunder in that spot. Really worried about Jake
up.
getting out. And yeah, I'm surprised. That really limits the ability for Risk to just do this Gold Fury guaranteed in their face.
Sunbeam Bow activated. That means it's go time for the Ama. Pagon blinks away, has backup in Rat Milk. Fine, okay, could use some backup himself, but he's already gone. And hey, the backup did pay off on the side of Rat Milk.
Solo laners love dying outnumbered, don't they? And they go, oh, they use this, you know, like that's going to help me.
So on brand.
You know what would help me? Not you in their backline where no one's around you, brother. Get back to me.
Remember that Gold Fury that's up? We could have used you right about now, but both teams even 4-on-4 at the gold. Pagon stuck in the storm.
Whoa.
Baskin helps him out, but Pagon will pay the price. Streak gets the credit, and Gold Fury still a question mark, but still trading. 3-3 now.
And now the support that got picked to start this sequence, and Awesome Jake, is back on the map, and with him having Sunder up, Risk know they can't go for that objective, so they head on back to their side of the map. I just think that right now, these skirmishes going Borscht's favor do not surprise me whatsoever. Their comp is better equipped to handle 2-on-2 skirmishes, 3-on-3s, you know, these small, quick, bursty fights. I still would be concerned if I'm Borscht that when Risk gets to B5 and the game simplifies to Odin Cage, Zeus ult, which it inevitably will, then Borscht will potentially struggle because here's the list of people that can get out of Odin Cage without blink. Rat Milk's ultimate, the end.
Speaking of Rat Milk's ultimate used, Variety in trouble, but the damage, it turns around. JK, the one's in trouble. That was Borscht all along. Variety says, I am not 0-6 this game. You cannot treat me that way. And Team Risk look to take advantage with 2 picks.
They should be able to pull fire in their face here. A double Sunder almost available, but Baskin has to blink away. Theek's now caught in the river. Does it matter?
Lots of shapes, lots of Venn diagrams. At the end of it all, Baskin's still dead. A rampage for Streak. They want more. Jake Riptide's away. Pagon around the side, but they're full, so you will not commit to that. Surely Fire Giant time.
Surely Fire Giant time, and I don't think Pagon's time is worth being here whatsoever. He should be on the left-hand side, pushing mid. They should be grouping on Gold Fury at this point. I don't know if they're going to have time to do Gold Fury anymore, where Pagon's just going to be able to get one wave, and that's about it. Risk should be able to come over and just stop this Gold Fury, even if it's just Genetics walking in by himself. He's a Ymir that's fairly tanky and has Sunder. I don't love doing it in his face.
It's been an action-packed one. Gold Fury now. The charts just got closed. Borscht wants some control back, but Team Risk are aware Genetics is near. He's got Sunder, and the Gold Fury is going down pretty slow. Genetics buying time. 2K. He has an opening. Doesn't fully go. Doesn't want to overcommit. And Gold Fury to Borscht, their second one.
Yeah, I like the decision there from Genetics, because it took Theeks and Streak both went and pushed right after they did the Fire Giant, and so they weren't on their way, they weren't coming out of base, they still had to go back, reset, spend, coming off that team fight, and it ends up being much better to just accept that you've lost that Gold Fury. We talked about it in the last match. You've got to be able to know when to cut your losses, and when you need to just give up an objective. It's okay that Borscht get their second and close the gap a little bit in the gold department. Look at all the gold that Risk has available to them in the form of towers that they can now siege with this Fire Giant.
It's crazy to think both Game 1 and now Game 2, not just how back and forth it is, but how both teams have been able to stay, for the most part, so close. But now in both games, there's been a difference. Game 1, it was all solo. Game 2, the ADC experience gap is a glaring eyesore.
Again, it's the same thing that happened last game. Pagon fell really far behind in the mid game, and you have to wonder if it's just lack of experience in the ADC role to know when, as a mid laner, you're just used to being involved in every skirmish, right? You're going to be in nearly every fight, because every fight is happening fairly close to you since you're in the mid lane. ADCs have to be stubborn and say, nah, not coming to that. I gotta farm. I gotta keep up and farm. I don't want to fall behind. And I wonder if Pagon's transition over to this ADC role is still lacking that knowledge of when he needs to say, yo, I need farm right now. If you're going to fight, that's your decision, but it's not going to be me.
Tier 1 tower is getting touched by Variety, but the answer is a bit of a slam. Fine OK gets the credit. Team Risk, their attention was more left, but they still haven't done the Tier 2 they've been hanging out around.
No, they'll get there eventually, though. They just had to wait for that wave.
Odd death.
Trade Variety for the Tier 2. I don't blame Variety for thinking that they wouldn't be putting up a massive defense on the mid Tier 1. I mean, you're going to lose left Phoenix. I don't love...
Still going.
I don't know. It's tough here, Malum, because it's going to be a hard fight for you, and all they get is left Phoenix, right? And that seems like, oh, all they get is the most important Phoenix, but that Phoenix is now less all-encompassing, less obviously the best Phoenix, because sometimes the big fights are around Ancient Fury now in the late game. It's not just Fire Giant as the sole late game objective. So you can more easily push that wave out and still be present on an important objective on the map. And it was going to be a tough defense. They don't have great ranged wave clear, and they got a good amount of gold back in their favor. The big problem is they don't have anyone with a global.
That's incredible.
If they had an Athena solo or an Athena jungle or an Athena support who could easily push up this side wave from the fire waves and then still join the fight, it wouldn't be a huge deal at all. As it stands, it's an annoyance.
Genetics sees Baskin, wanted to see if there was an opportunity. Fine, okay, maybe is one as well. The blink to separate. It's all right, it works. But there's tension still brewing. There's still a dance close by, and it's all in the jungle for a Fire Giant that is still on the belts of Team Risk. It's not up for contest, but Borscht not stopping them from pushing up.
Yeah, I mean, Final K no blink is a pretty big deal. Is he Kraken's Casper?
And Casper is very, very much indeed.
Bro, Casper is
so
dead as hell inside that red buff, brother, let me tell you.
And where do you go from here? Team Risk are still close by. Borscht still want to push up, but there's no clear pick to be had, and you're burning a lot for it.
Yeah.
That was a weird one.
I don't know. The Rivers Rebuke as well. I mean, they got spooked by something.
Yeah, that was an
right
antsy
there.
fight.
Yeah. I'll say, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that one, to be honest with you. So instead, we'll just focus on, what's happening in the match, and that's Gold Fury coming up. It is an important one for Borscht in particular because getting that third gold boon is pretty big. You know, that's a pretty important buff that you just get for the rest of the game to help you siege a little bit better. So I think that Risk being late to this is pretty bad, but they're so late and so spread that I would, if I'm Borscht, I'm thinking, oh, they're on the way. We can't just pull it. They don't have this top-down view to let them know that Risk are just giving
There's no
this
wards
Gold
on the
Fury
map.
in order to get positional advantage on this Fire Giant.
And that is indeed the case. So for 22 minutes, this is a shockingly close game, with the biggest difference still being that Phoenix. But you've given us so many reasons as to why that Phoenix isn't detrimental to Borscht. And they were playing in the right jungle looking for a 5-on-5 fight. So clearly they are not bothered. Some poke on the Lasbro, nothing more.
It's unfortunate that we can't see the fire wave coming down the left-hand side and where that wave got pushed to, because that is going to become relevant eventually if Risk is able to just keep Borscht's attention over here. And that's why everyone from Risk is grouped on this right-hand side, but they're clearly not invested in doing fire immediately. They just need to keep Borscht busy, because Borscht is losing if they're letting fire waves come in.
Hexstone to get away. The Kraken won't find a home. Team Risk getting forced back some more by Borscht. Still no damage on Titan. That's the only idea we can have of that fire minion wave that's so important. Jake, real important, and now locked down in the Odin cage, but still alive. Genetics tries to cut off the rest of Borscht, and Jake is around the side. That'll force all of Borscht back, and Team Risk looks on the hunt.
Nice wall, flies up 3.
It's the freeze, but you gotta find some picks too. You're getting a lot of damage in your back line. Rat Milk in and out. Scot-free. The laser! We're still aiming for Casper, and Baskin will pay for staying and being there to begin with. Team Risk with the first pick. Rat Milk back in and pays with 1 pick. That's 2 dead for Borscht now, but they're still dancing with Team Risk.
They're still there, and Genetics still looking for a wall. Jake cut off to the north side, but it's fine. Okay, who's the focus?
Kraken did not find a home. The dash in will help find Jake. Double kill for Streak. Pagon's able to get 1, so that's 2 in consolation for Borscht, but they've lost 3 throughout all this chaos, and their Phoenix dying right now.
Yeah, they lost this left Phoenix. It should just be gone, right? There's surely one
Took that
more
last
minion
hit? No way.
on there. Wow.
That one arrow,
Finocase
not
gonna
enough.
Get there just in time. That is wild. Very fortunate there for Borscht. I mean, look, let's call a spade, Malum. That team fight was ugly on both sides. I mean, Theeks and Shriek dump ultimates with Lasbra onto Jake alone. You got to use those AoEs for the AoE.
Hexstone right to Pagon. Got to bring the aggression to him, but the wall is off the mark. Genetics will go down, and Pagon is still throwing. That fire is still low. The dash in on the Streak. The Fire Giant falls to Variety, and Pagon will die. He chose to go for Streak instead of the Fire Giant and could not get either one.
Yeah, he's probably not living even if he gets if he goes for the steal and doesn't dash in. So I understand the decision making.
Tough call.
Just didn't end up executing.
Finocase will run in the Streak. Heart Bomb on. Variety takes advantage. Finocase just dead eventually. I mean, the blink looked cool. The Kraken
Salute to
not going to
Zapman.
find a
That's a Zap blink if I've ever seen one.
That was a Zapman blink.
No doubt about it. Man, it's such a long cooldown. I feel like you got to be saving it a little better than that. I don't know, Malum. I feel like game 1 was back and forth and obviously sloppy on some ends, but wasn't this chaotic. This is absolute chaos in these fights. I feel like abilities aren't being held properly.
So
I mean, it's not. We're not seeing anyone execute cleanly. And the thing is, either of these teams could just all of a sudden mechanically play a fight perfectly, and they'll just win because neither team is doing it so far. Even with Risk having Fire Giant, even with Risk having knocked down a Phoenix already, even though it respawned. This game is, in my opinion, who starts hitting their buttons better.
Right.
Because so far, both sides have been struggling with that.
And it's so weird. We saw the charts. They were very even. Now a Gold Fury, the first one for Team Risk, will certainly help a fair bit. But when you actually look at items and levels, it's so all over the place.
Right.
It looks, I don't know, it looks like it's 17 minutes, maybe 19 minutes in a game, not 25, 26.
Yeah, is Jake sitting on a lot of gold in hand? Like, he's down a full item. right now to Genetics, but he's up a level.
So 1400. I mean,
1400. So no, I don't know. Maybe he's
tier
been
2 at best.
buying an absolute ton of wards or something like that. They've got similar net worth. It's so weird that has gone on. Maybe, oh, does he have his starter upgraded, but Genetics doesn't? Is that a very slight color difference?
That's a little more minty.
Okay.
It's a little more like
Yeah.
forest.
Yeah, we got a heroism, and we got a selflessness. Okay, so that. Wait, was that selfless? Was that? Oh no, selflessness is the upgrade, right? No, it is not. I'm losing my mind. How does Genetics have an item and his starter upgraded in the same net? Is he cheating? What is happening? We need an investigation.
Admin cam, when?
We need an audit. We need an audit on the finances of Genetics immediately. Or really, I think it's more on Awesome Jake's side.
I was going to say, I've heard a lot about the EU poker games going on to the hotel. I would not audit Genetics right now. I would aim it towards Jake.
What is Jake spending his money on, man? That's what I got to know. Does he have 53 wards placed this game? Is that where they've all gone? I'm losing it.
It's a wild one. Still close-ish at this point. Risk has established a lead. They've got Variety pushing in solo. They've got a spread across the map, and Tier 2 will fall in mid. Variety goes forward, doesn't fully get the Phoenix, and might just dive forward. It's going to be close. The curse, the ult, he should be out.
Yeah, he's got the curse. Oh, blink in. Okay, they're going to commit blink. That should be enough to kill Variety. But he's
right?
No way!
That's insane to turn that around. That was all that. That was the pissed off Variety from the previous games.
No doubt. No doubt. That is unbelievable. Are we sure Loki's that good, guys? Like, I don't know. You got to be able to kill a soul laner from that HP.
Kraken out, doesn't find a big home. Genetics knocked around, the Storm's out. Where's the damage? It's on to Team Risk. Baskin gets one. It is traded out from Streak. Genetics is low, and Pagon cleans it up. Ooh. This is still as chaotic as it's ever been, but it's starting to find one hero. It's Pagon, but how long will he stand? Not long at all. Variety shuts it down.
And now he can just walk on over, take down this right side Phoenix with half a wave. Baskin should be able to clear some of it. But I don't know if they've got enough damage to really stop the damage onto the Phoenix.
Team Risk starts it up. They're getting closer to a great spot. Talisman out to keep the Zeus safe. Jake takes a lot. Variety takes 2.
Oh, okay.
Much, and we'll see you later. Maybe he was a little less pissed off now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Phoenix doing a little bit more to him than that Loki was, I suppose, on the dive. And again, it's a little bit of a fiesta underneath the Phoenixes, but at the end of the day, the game is even. Right?
No Phoenix's gained.
3K gold is nothing at this stage, and Risk, despite winning the fights outright, I would say, until that re-engage happened, and with the Fire Giant, aren't quite able to break the base. And I think it was really that dash in from Streak up. As soon as he saw Pagon come out of the door on the right-hand side and finish off Genetics, Streak abandons the Phoenix Siege and tries to kill Pagon, and if he was able to, and then survive himself, then it obviously would have been potentially game-ending, but it just ends up being too much of a risk. Pagon's able to put out too much damage in return. Baskin was there to back him up.
Yeah, it got scary enough of an end. I put the stress ball away. It's back out. It's absolutely back out. Around fire now. Borscht, it's looking messy already from the start.
Good ultimate onto Genetics, but when he's got Hexstone up, it's not so good at all. Just able to get out of there, and without that ultimate, it's big.
Now the cages, the circles drop. Can you find the damage to make it clean? That Kraken isn't going to hit anything, but the damage is still good on Lasbro. Can Borscht clean this up? Radmilk follows, but can't get the kill. He's got to get back out, but he brought the chain lightning, almost dies, but he stands alive. He almost brought a nuclear bomb back to the squad.
And look, I'm all for in-hand Zeus, and it's fun, and it's new, and it's exciting with the attack stim and all that kind of stuff. You build Intelligent Zeus to do that, to have your Chain Lightning detonate, nearly one-shot the jungler. Really good Chain Lightning from Theeks. Though the thing about Zeus is if you miss Chain Lightning, you've lost the fight.
Yeah.
It is the end-all be-all ability. It's got such high upside, but such strong downside, and he lands it there and really stops that engagement in its tracks. Borscht just not having the damage to chew through this front line quite yet. Little bit more pen now finished for Ratmilk though.
Lasper was invis, tries to make something happen, gets the cage around Fine OK. The storm hits, but there's a little angle for Fine OK, but is it enough? The heart bomb's on. Tanky enough. He's okay, but look at the back line. Variety wreaking havoc, and he get the stun.
Heals.
He's got backup as well. That's one dead on Borscht, and now the split happens. The split causes the chaos. Baskin finds one, but goes down, and Streak is pulling forward, but he's answered by Ratmilk. 3 dead, make it 4 with a triple kill from Streak. Jake will join the pile of bodies. Quadra kill for Streak, and Team Risk figure it out.
That duo lane for Team Risk, they come through in the clutch yet again. Streak has been absolutely gapping Pagon so far in this set, and it happens there at the very end as well. Quadra kill for him. Genetics separating the fight beautifully. It isn't guaranteed end though here, I don't think, Malum. I thought it was as well, but no wave, no time to do that Phoenix.
15 for final K.
You got a little bit of time, but Kraken's coming up. Streak does have Phantom Shell. Can they do it?
It's going to be a close call. You've got the sustain from the Cupid at least. Dashes it around at half. 5 seconds for final K. It's down to 2K. They've got it. They lose genetics, but it won't matter. Team Risk do it. They pull off the 2-0. They get this sweep, and they remember who they are.
What is happening in this tournament, man? I mean, like, Risk, they first of all, Food Drive at the beginning of the day, they were 4-0, and then they nearly lose 4 games in a row. Then Risk, they lose their best of ones. They look terrible doing so. And then they come in and they 2-0 Borscht after looking terrible in the first 10 minutes of game 1. Absolutely wild. And this is what a new competitive game is about.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West, man. No one knows what's happening. No one knows who's winning a team fight at any point. But boy, is it a lot of fun to watch.
A new competitive game, and remember, a new part of the bracket. We start Vegas, and the teams completely change who they are, what they're about, how they're playing through it, and it shows off in the gameplay. That's one of those sets where, sure, it was a 2-0, but like it feels like that set went 6 games, you know? Like
It was wild.
Man.
It was wild. And I don't know, man. I really feel like the Poseidon solo was obviously doing a lot in Final K's hands, but when you look at how it adjusts how you have to team fight, what it brings to a team composition, I feel like Borscht was lacking another frontline presence in those fights. Variety, even when behind, was able to make space in every single fight and be impactful in every single fight. I feel like that's something that Borscht might be looking to adjust once we head to Vegas.
And every time Ratmilk had the moment for that hero play, that hero moment, it was just answered and shut down. So far, the Vegas bracket started and the chaos followed long suit. I don't know about you. I'm really excited to hear the desk break this one down. Over to you guys.
Hopefully I don't disappoint you, Malum. Unfortunately, I have a track record of doing that.
You'll never disappoint.
Not you, Inbound. Oh, okay. We're moving on from that one real quick. Team Risk able to turn things around from this morning after a couple of dropped individual tiebreaker games. They now 2-0 Borscht, which we figured would be the harder of those top bracket matchups. Should have been the more difficult of those top bracket matchups. And maybe it looks easy in the 2-0, but these are really, really hard-fought games. And Inbound Borscht now dropped to the lower bracket here in the SMITE 2 Founder Series. But they're a team I'm worried about running into.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Borscht played a fine series. It's just there's their glaring issues in those late-game team fights. It seems like sometimes they're not on the same page. They're split a little bit too much. And Team Risk exploited that very well. And yeah, I think Aggro is 100% right, shouting out Streak for that late-game team fight. I think he played it phenomenally. I mean, 13-2-7. This tanky style build, it's just so good in this current landscape of Smite. You can live the dive. There's never really that much of a threat on you. And like Pagon's build is fine. It's not an issue with the build, but Sunbeam Bow is like the pinnacle of ADC builds right now, and Pagon's not building it. He's going for that devs build still. It just seemed like the build is just lacking comparatively to Streak.
Yeah. Later on in the game, felt like Pagon had to make some desperation plays, dashing in, trying to solo out another target or two. Ultimately didn't matter. I mean, if this is what we've got in store through the rest of this bracket, I'm really, really excited because Inbound, you talk about the Wild West of the meta, and that's how the casters described it, and the early goings of SMITE 2 and how quickly things change and land metas, and we start our morning with some best of ones and then move into back-to-back games where both teams probably felt like they could have won it. That, though, is then when the team chemistry, I think, can really win the day.
Yeah, and I think this also says a little bit about Group B. I mean,
Yeah, right.
Group B had this really close entire bracket, and Group A was just Team 5Ms just dominating the entire way through. But it's good that Team Risk can bounce back after a lackluster start to this day and play like they did in this set.
Yeah, upset with how the morning went, but really happy with how the first set of their Vegas bracket went. Who do I got over there? I got Genetics. Malum and Genetics standing by for the post-game interview.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to start right with something Bobby had just said, kind of just this bounce back, this reminder I said of who you guys are. Does it feel better to kind of walk out of that room with a victory?
I can't believe we won, honestly. We were absolutely in the depths after those 2 losses. I had to go for a walk out in the rain. I think Harry had to do the same thing. And
Some white guy thinking time.
I could, honestly, that's the only thing that brought us over the line today.
It was effective. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't call it out, especially after the cast with aggro we had, where there was a lot of sloppiness to that game. It was kind of all over the place.
Yep.
Did you guys kind of go in with the mindset of let's try something different, let's get a little bit even more aggressive than you got throughout the Founder Series?
So the meta's kind of developed now where Kern and Poseidon have got up in the meta and people are kind of bursting objectives. So if you're not the ones taking constant fights and you're letting the enemy set their own terms, they'll just pull up to a fire giant, rip it, and then it's really difficult. Right. So against North America especially, we've tried to be a bit more fluent. I don't know, a bit more aggressive and try and not let them be the ones setting the pace of the game. Because we know we're going to be better late game. It's always EU versus NA. They're just worse than us. So have a scrappy mid game, get the late game, and then win.
Well, that's the big thing, is being able to kind of get ahead of it and take the reins of what's going on throughout the game. Now, the tougher part of winning here is you've got a big break, but you've got a victory for it as you go into Vegas. Is it tough to pre-plan for a game that's going to be completely different in Vegas?
Yeah, it's a new game. No, it's just a new game.
It's completely new.
I mean, I'm so happy to be done with this patch, personally. It's a great game. I love it. The relics are amazing, but the aspects I'm massively looking forward to.
Heck yeah. Well, that gets us all set up and ready. That's all we've got for this interview. Thanks, Genetics, for talking with me. I'm going to send it back over to the desk.
We will see Genetics and the rest of Team Risk in just a few weeks out in Las Vegas. They are still in the upper portion of this bracket.
You think he's happy to be done with Clad Shield and Talisman every single game? You've asked him about it. That's the meta for support.
Actually, I'm assuming he requested to be fined $1,000, right? If he didn't build it, I'm not misremembering,
no, you
right?
did.
I'm assuming he built it.
He did.
In back-to-back
Unfortunately,
games.
we can't find him.
Right. Otherwise, we said Malum was going to have to go out and be the one to sit him down and enact that fine. No fine to be enacted. Genetics built it, but we're going to see a totally different update come Vegas time. But this is still a Team Risk team that brought us through just about every emotion inbound, not only through the set just now, the 2-0, but through the tiebreakers this morning. Again, this was the first match of our SMITE 2 Founder Series Las Vegas bracket, the upper bracket, and it now looks a little bit like this. Smoke Break versus Team Risk. Let's run it back in 3 or 4 weeks out in Las Vegas. That'll be in our round 2 upper portion. 5Ms will be awaiting the winner of our next matchup today. That is Food Drive for Globe versus Mockingbird. And you guessed it, the team that loses our second best of 3, not going home. They're just going to drop down to the lower portion of our bracket. So all 6 teams that have qualified this weekend are going to be live in Las Vegas with all the fans that'll be there. Just determines which side of the bracket you start yourself on. So Food Drive for Globe versus Mockingbird inbound. We're going to talk a little bit about that before we go to break. But 5Ms, they're now looking at a couple of teams here. I'm thinking they're probably very comfortable with their position in this bracket. But Smoke Break versus Team Risk, I also look at that. The tiebreaker game we got, I don't know how much we can really glean from it, but we're immediately going to run that back out in Vegas.
Yeah, and so far Smoke Break 3-0 this weekend over Team Risk, but I think this is actually a good start for Team Risk to, play against this team that they've not really been able to beat this entire weekend. Because if they start off with that win, hey, you're in the finals on the winner's side. So getting off to a nice little win, maybe defeating a demon to start, one that you haven't been able to beat in a while, I think that'll be good for them. We still have one more set today with this Food Drive for Globe and Mockingbird set. Dave, that last set sets us up for such a good one here because Group A, Group B, Group B was really close. Group A was not close, and Mockingbird was that 3 seed coming out of Group A, 2 seed Food Drive for Globe out of Group B. I think you're expecting a lot out of Food Drive for Globe, but Mockingbird had a lot of positives.
I think my expectations are pretty. It's committal, but in a non-committal way. Food Drive for Globe showed us a lot of good and bad over the last few months and this weekend.
All right.
Mockingbird showed us a lot of good and bad over the last few weeks and this weekend. It's been two teams that I've had a really difficult time pinning down personal feelings on going into each matchup, and that is pretty equal between those two teams. So I think it's one that has the potential to be really close as well. But also another EMEA versus North American matchup. And Genetics ends that interview saying, EU always better than NA. We'll see if we get a little bit more data on that in our next matchup of the day. One more best of 3 today, still in the SMITE 2 Founder Series. Las Vegas, upper bracket. We got Food Drive for Globe versus Mockingbird coming up next.